Thank you for joining us today as we take us through another session of Calm Under Pressure. We are focusing on the challenges of the holiday season today and what's going on for us and what we maybe can do about it. With that, I'm going to share my screen and I'll give us a little bit of time to take a break between everything that's happening outside of here and our time together. Today, we're going to have a little holiday picture to look at. And what I want everybody to do, because this is such a hectic time for us between our personal lives, our family lives, and our work lives, that I'd like to just take a minute, take a slow breath in, and let it out. Feel your shoulders dropping down. See if you can feel your jaw loosening and your body softening with each breath you take. And I want to give you an image of you're picturing your holiday expectations as if it's a snow globe in your hand. And I want you to give that snow globe a gentle shake and watch the flakes as they settle. And each time you shake the globe, the snow settles in a different way. Each way is beautiful and unique, but they never settle the same way. And your holiday is like the snow globe. The events will settle, and how they settle will be unpredictable. But you don't need the perfect holiday. You only need moments of calm and connection and joy. So as you breathe out, accept that things may go differently than planned. Let go of the pressure. Let go of all the shoulds. And as you breathe in, welcome the small things that go right. A kind word, a quiet moment, a laugh, a tiny improvement. Fan these moments so they glow a little brighter inside you. Take one more slow breath, and as you exhale, say after me, I release what I cannot control. I make space for what is good. And when you're ready, return to the rest of the day and keep these thoughts in mind. So thank you for joining us in this busy season. And Paul and I are really excited to be with you and give you some hope for the season, because holidays trigger stress, and it shouldn't be surprising, but we always seem to, at least I always seem to come into the holiday season thinking everything's going to be great. And I forget that I have the challenges. I've got some family dynamics that can be a bit hard to manage. And I want to create the perfect experience, especially if I'm hosting a holiday party, which I do each year for 16 family members. But I try to go into it, or I want to go into it. I mean, I'm geared to go into it saying I'm going to make it perfect for all 16 people, and it's going to be perfect 100% of the time. I also have stress because it's the year end. I've got workload things that I have to do and get done. And my calendar gets crowded between the work things and the family things and the special events that everybody's holding. And am I going to go to this event or that event? Am I going to be in town or out of town, right? All these things come up that create a huge extra demands on us. So it's not surprising that the holiday is going to trigger stress in us, because it's also stressful for our family members. You know, we've got kids who are going to be made, if they're really young, they're super excited about what they might get from Santa Claus or for the holiday season. If they're older, they may be struggling with what they're going to get for somebody else, or how it's going to go, or if they're going to show up for the family event. And then we tend to forget about the work that we do just on an ongoing basis to care for other people and help other people. And that's things like planning meals, right? Not just the holiday meal, but the dinner the night before and the breakfast the next morning, and the work we do to keep peace in the family or to get people to and from places they need to go. Wrapping gifts. I mean, who hasn't been up until 2 or 3 in the morning, wrapping presents for people? That's stressful. It's invisible labor. Nobody pats us on the back for that. The kids, when they get up in the morning, as they're ripping that wrapper paper off in our household, right? They don't go, "Oh, gee, thank you for doing all that work last night at 2 o'clock in the morning," right? And so there's a lot of things that happen that are going to induce stress. And one of the things that we have to realize is we can't force that happy ending that we want. I think many of us either saw or read the story of A Christmas Carol. You know, a lot of at the beginning, Scrooge is he's really terrible and poor Tiny Tim is starving. But then Scrooge has one magical night right before Christmas and he sees the light and he has a total change of heart and he shows up and he enjoys the family event and he's giving and he's loving and caring. And that just doesn't happen in real life. We're going to have to manage the fact that things aren't going to go the way we want them to. There's things we can't control, outcomes we can't manage. All we can do to improve the holiday season for ourselves is improve how we approach what can happen during the holiday season. But I'm going to tell you right now, changing how we approach it is the most powerful and transformative thing that we can possibly do for ourselves. And it's going to allow us to thrive during these holiday seasons. So today, Paul and I are going to give you some tools and approaches to help you thrive. We're going to look at a holiday coping plan, expectations, how do we release those? The secret 60% rule, some of you may know it, but if you don't know it, I try to live by it during the holidays and it has saved me many times. We're going to talk about what kind of mind and body resets we can do and help you walk away with your very own action plan. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Paul, who's going to get us started with the holiday coping plan. All yours, Paul.
Thanks, Gail. So, tool number one we're going to start with today is our holiday coping plan. This is a fantastic tool to utilize and something that I actually have personal experience with. And the main focus for this tool to start off with is just kind of identifying what the holiday stress triggers are for you, having some awareness around it, being able to identify and acknowledge any early warning signs, and then we'll go over some actionable steps. Keep in mind that trying to control outcomes, like Gail was mentioned, that we cannot control is one of the biggest causes of holiday stress. And our power lies in managing ourselves, our expectations, our limits, and our responses. Um, and so, moving forward with this holiday coping plan, I have a scenario here kind of mapped out. And it's just kind of a vague scenario that we kind of put together. Hopefully, you can relate with. It's December. You want to attend the children's school holiday parties, concerts, and performances, and family is coming into town all at once, right? And at the same time, you've got your work obligations. Everything is approaching year-end quotas, client deadlines, team deliverables, and you know from past experiences that juggling these competing pressures creates a lot of stress, guilt, and emotional tension. So hopefully everyone can kind of relate with that. And before we kind of move into this slide here, just kind of a show of hands, who all kind of has experienced stress along with the holidays? It's the end of the year. You've got everything going on with the holidays, which is its own beast in itself, coupled with all of the main things that go on with work, right? So step one for this coping plan is identifying some triggers and some warning signs. I want to remind just a definition here as it relates to stress. A trigger is any stimulus that promotes a strong emotional or physical reaction. Okay. And remember that it's not the event or the situation, it's the reaction or lack of reaction to said event. And what you want to do is you want to identify the event and identify how your reaction to it. And I've broken this down into two simple domains. You've got your mental domain and your physical domain. So some early warning signs might present as maybe you're noticing increased irritability. You're experiencing some fear of disappointment. You're feeling pulled and rushed in multiple different directions. Or maybe it's some more physical markers, which I find to be a little bit more concrete or easier to pinpoint. It's easier to identify if you're sleeping through that alarm in the morning. You're starting to notice each day you're waking up later, you're pushing through that alarm. Maybe throughout the day, you're noticing some tenseness in your shoulders and in your neck. frequent headaches, you're noticing fatigue throughout the day. I know for me, the two on this list that I fall guilty to is the unhealthy diet, right? So resorting to the low-hanging fruits and getting by on junk food all day. Stress eating with sugar is a thing with me. If I'm stressed out, I will find the peanut M&Ms real quick. Also, behavior change, right? If you start noticing you're isolating or doom scrolling, something that affects me is what's called revenge bedtime procrastination. And if you're unfamiliar with this term, simply how it works is you're busy throughout the day, you're pulled in so many different directions, you feel just to the limit on everything. So at night, when you finally have some time to yourself, you avenge that time and you steal that time where you should be sleeping, right? So you steal that sleep away from yourself so that way you feel like you can engage in some activity that you're getting your own time in. Hopefully everyone sees the folly with this is that it just kicks the can on down the road because now you're staying up avenging your time and you wake up tired the next day, you're fatigued, and it's just a perpetual cycle that kind of goes on. So these are a couple of domains that you can kind of identify some early warning signs. And by identifying them, it kind of puts you on the path to, um, an appropriate solution, right? And ways to cope with this. So step two is visualize. You want to visualize your desired outcome. You want to name how you want to show up. For me, I want to be intentional with my time. I want to be prepared. I want to be in tune with the season and present with my family, as well as being consistent at work. It's very important as we talk about the holidays and stress related to it. There's a lot of personal stuff that kind of goes into that box. But the truth is, it also affects professional life as well. And that's the big part of this workshop is having to deal with the stress to be the most productive in both areas. So for me, these are a couple of things that I will pinpoint when I'm trying to visualize how I want to show up. It really helps to write this stuff down, or at the very least, imagine how you want to be, how you want to feel, and how you want to experience the holiday season. Okay, so actionable steps. Step three, let's put it into action. And the best thing that I can do is kind of share a personal experience with this. A few years ago, when I was newly married and navigating family life, I used to really struggle with the holidays. I would get, I would add stress, pressure, and unnecessary expectations in several areas. And the result for me was constantly feeling rushed, pressure to perform at work, and to be present at home. Both suffered in the end. So this holiday coping plan is something that had worked for me. I started to be proactive in consolidating my personal and work calendar, taking note when events, deliverables, family coming into town, and I also started to add in my level of involvement, right? And so for me, and everyone develop your own system, but what works for me is I rate it from 1 to 5. So as I put it in my calendar or as I'm blocking it out, whatever organizational tool you're using, as I'm laying all of this out, I also note, my level of involvement in each of these activities, one being the least, five being the most. And so as I go through and I'm planning and I'm being proactive, I already kind of have a reset on where I'm going to show up, on how I'm going to show up. So after I just kind of started being proactive with that, I started to really protect my boundaries. So set those boundaries and then really kind of protect those. And I'll tell you, the first time doing this, I did not give myself a lot of grace. And I learned the hard way how important building grace really is. So I started allowing time in between my work appointments, engagements, and holiday events. Adding that buffer time really allowed some space and some grace. But the other area that I started to build grace in was giving myself emotional grace if I still got stressed intermittently between these things. I even started to prepare for the expected and unexpected stress moments. And I realized that there's no such thing as perfect adherence. One of the biggest things that I just organically started to show was my self-talk started to change. Words matter, and how we speak to ourselves has an impact. Something that really works for me is that even if vocabulary started changing that what if to an even if type of mindset. It's something that's really strong for me. A lot of the times that what if is based in fear, based in the future, based in anxiety. So I would use language with my self-talk, even if then I'm prepared. And what that did is that started translating to more confidence, calm, and preparedness for kind of what came my way. And what's really great about these actionable steps is that this works outside of the holiday season. It is fantastic for the holiday season, and I started noticing that it works outside of it as well. These were my results. I started noticing that I was feeling less pulled and rushed all the time. I presented more calm and confident. I was able to be fully present with family and work. And like I just mentioned, the unexpected byproduct was I was building resilience. So I was noticing that when I would incorporate this holiday coping plan during the holiday season, I was starting to build that resilience that would take shape just random times throughout the year. I started to kind of get stronger when it came to coping with stress or unexpected situations or fill in the blank. So this was my experience with this holiday coping plan. These were my results with it, and here's why it works. Awareness prepares the nervous system. And that right there is fantastic. Just that alone. If we can prepare our biological nervous system, then we're already going to be making steps in reducing a lot of the stress impact on our body. But there are more reasons why it works, such as identifying things, naming them weakens power, it lessens it. And having a plan in the pocket reduces a lot of anxiety. Preparedness leads the confidence. And with that, I'll turn it back to Gail.
Thank you, Paul. That holiday coping plan is so powerful, but it can be overwhelming when we first try to do it if we tackle it as the whole holiday. So, I'd like people to think about the things that are going on for you. Is there one event you could do a holiday coping plan for? Could it be that you know you have a holiday party you need to go to or that you need to host? Could it be a particular work commitment or particular deadline or client deliverable that you could think about? And then you could think around that and use the tools that Paul suggested. Because if we can start with one step, that's how we get there. Thinking we're going to create a holiday coping plan that's going to cover everything that happens for us is going to overwhelm us, first of all, and leave us going, I can't do this. But if we can start small, pick one, that's a way to go. And it's the same kind of thing as we get into expectation release, which is another really powerful way to thrive during the holidays. Um, I gave the example of Scrooge, right? At the beginning and the Christmas Carol, right? We would like all of our troublesome relatives to show up during the holidays like the transformed Scrooge. But I'm sorry, they haven't all spent the night with the three ghosts and they haven't all transformed their vision. And therefore, they're most likely to behave during the holiday season the same way they behave the rest of the year. And so, if we go into the holiday season expecting that all of a sudden everything's going to be merry and bright, that sets us up for a lot of stress because then we're going to try and make that expectation happen. And then we're focusing on changing things that are not under our control. Here's a great example of something that we can do, and it happens to me. I'm a list maker, right? So if I'm planning a party, I make a list. And I don't know if anybody here or other people here are the party planners in the family in their families. Um, but if you are, or you're the event planner, or maybe you're the trip planner for the family and you have an idea of how you want it to go, right? And so in my case, I will go through and I'll make a list of everything that needs to be done before the party. And will include everything from dusting the blinds and emptying the waste baskets to getting 5 different kinds of beer and 4 different kinds of sodas and yada yada. But you know what happens if you're me? I start stressing over picking 5 kinds of beer because why? I don't drink beer. So here's how this plays out for me. One, I put 5 kinds of beer on the list, and now I'm already like in heightened nervousness here because I've got to come up with five, and I don't really know what I'm doing. But okay, it's okay. I'm going to go to the local liquor store. I got this solved. I've really got this, right? So I get to the local liquor store, and you know what happens when I get there? There is a wall of beers, and I don't know how to pick. Okay, okay, I'm stressed. I'm stressed, but I can do this. I can handle this. Really, I can handle it. I'm going to find an associate who's going to help me pick the five best beers so that everybody at my party is perfectly happy with the beer selection that I have available to them. Okay, so I go and I find the helper and I drag them over to the wall of beers and I say, I need five kinds of beers that are going to make everybody at my party who likes beer happy. And the helper's going to go, well, what kind of beer do they like? Right? Anybody ever been there? Right? What kind of beer do they like? I have no idea. And my stress level at this point is just going up and up and up. Why? Because I'm committed to, I have to have five kinds of beer. Um, but if I were to let go of that expectation and say, you know what? Give me your two best sellers. What's going to happen? Many people at the party are going to like the two that I have to offer. Yes, there may be somebody of the 16 people, uh, nine of which like beer, is not going to like either one of the beer selections that I have, but the rest of them are. And if I let go of my expectation, my whole process of buying the beer for the party has just become so much easier and simpler and less stressful for me. What about if you have a relative who is difficult? Difficult is a euphemism for a pain in the neck, and the source of a lot of stress for you. And you really want them to be good at the party. You want everything to go well, and you want them to be pleasant and happy and polite for the entire party, which, by the way, they have never been in the history of coming to parties at your house. But your expectation is because it's the holiday season, they're going to be that way. Is that going to happen? Anybody? Is they going to be polite and happy the entire party? That's my expectation. Am I going to be spending a lot of energy trying to make that happen and worrying about it? Yes. Don't need to do that. If I let go of that expectation and say, you know what, they may be happy a good portion of the time. They're probably going to be unhappy at some point, but you know what? I'm going to talk to my sister. And when I notice our relatives starting to get unhappy, my sister is the better person to deal with them. And I'll have her go over and talk to them quietly and maybe take them off into another room. So I've actually let go of the expectation that they're going to be perfect and happy throughout the whole event. And I've enlisted my sister, this is part of Paul's holiday coping, to take them aside so that I can minimize the impact that they might have. And by letting go of my expectations, I'm able to deal with that much more successfully. So if I now go into the holiday season and I'm saying to myself, you know, I'm going to find two of the most popular brands of beer, not five, that's going to make everybody perfect. And I'm going to apologize if there's somebody who ultimately doesn't like either of the beers I have. Um, and if I have my sister helping to take the troublesome relative aside, I have let go of my expectations in those two areas, and I'm going to have a much happier experience at the party. And again, I'm going to say the secret to building your power, because this is really a powerful thing. And it works in the workplace, it works with families, it works with relationships, it works with child rearing, um, is to start with one small expectation, let go of it, and see what happens. And then try another one and another one. It is very liberating and it brings our stress levels down enormously. So, what might be a concrete example in the workplace? You have a manager who expects a big deliverable before the holiday break, and the old expectation you have is I've got to get everything done before I leave. Well, if you've let go of your expectations and use some of the other tools that we're talking about, you might say to yourself, "Wait a minute, it's not a realistic expectation that I get the whole thing done before the holiday and before I leave. What if I were to realign the expectation and offer my boss that I can complete phase one this week and I could deliver the remaining sections after the holiday? And then I would ask them, would that be enough for you? What parts are most critical for you? So not only am I resetting my expectations, I'm helping my manager to express how they might reset their expectations to be more realistic, right? I'm creating a plan. I'm inviting them to collaborate with me on getting what their needs met, and I'm setting some limits as we let go of these expectations. And we're finding another path to success. So I want to take just one second here, 1 minute here, and I want to give everybody just a minute to think. Can you come up with one expectation for yourself, for something else that you might like to let go of or reset? Just take a minute and think for yourself. What might be one expectation that you just naturally fall to or go to that might be worth letting go or resetting? Because we can set ourselves up to fail, right? The example of everything, the big deliverable happening before the holiday break may not be at all possible. Everything has to be perfect. That's a great one to work on letting go of. What about good enough? How powerful is good enough, right? My example of the beers, for me, perfection would have been to have 5 beers that all 9 people of the 16 that come to my party, you can see how I think, right? This is the way my brain works. All 9 people would be happy because of the 5 beers, they would find at least one that they loved. So everybody would be happy. But if I can let go of that idea of perfection, 2 beers that 8 people like and one person doesn't, and so I offer them a different kind of drink. What else might you enjoy, right? Is making the holiday work, even though it wasn't my original idea of perfection. The next tool we're going to talk about, which is also really important, and everybody's going to, as I first tell you what this is going to say, I can't do that, right? And that is that you're going to plan the holiday season as if you only have 60% capacity. That means that you're going to plan to be able to accomplish 40% less than you would normally expect yourself to do. Now, when we think about this, why would we do this? Well, the holidays are the time of unexpected things coming up and additional things. There's the holly party you didn't know about. There's the cocktail event you have to go to. There's the child's additional recital that you have to turn up with. There's the holiday performances that you have to go to, right? That aren't part of your normal life. They're not part of your normal rhythm. And yet they're going to come up and you're going to be asked to participate and to show up and to be there. And if you're already booked 100%, there's no room. And then every decision is a struggle and a trade-off, right? The last minute client request is suddenly a struggle and a trade-off. Well, maybe I can't go to my child's recital because I've got to meet the client request because I'm already booked 100%. Emotional labor. We do a lot of that. If we have a struggling child, if we have an aging parent, if we have a family member with a health issue, we have a lot of what's talked about as emotional labor, but it's our emotions and our time and our energy that we put into supporting that individual who has some kind of a challenge, right? That takes up space for us. It reduces our mental and emotional capacity. Delays and disruptions. The client meeting is going to be rescheduled. Why? No, I had time for it today. I don't have time for it in the next 2 weeks because I didn't apply the 60% rule. Anybody here already had one of these situations come up for them? Just put into the chat, yes, no, or expect it to come up in the next. We don't expect it to happen. Because if it has happened, you know how disruptive it can be. And if it hasn't happened, I suspect you have this sneaking concern that something is going to come up and knock you off. The 60% rule, to do that is to say, okay, let's look at 10 major blocks is what we normally do. And we do all of these things, the project deadline, the child concert, the family gathering, the client meeting, the essential errands. Okay. And instead of expecting us to get those done, assume that we're only get 6 of them done. And everything else is going to be optional as and when we have time. Give yourself permission to make the other things optional. Maybe you delegate them. Maybe you say it's one of those important things that you were going to work on, but for just now, because it's the holiday season, you're going to put the important thing off into the new year. Whatever it takes to back yourself off from expecting 100%. And I had an example for myself just last week. I was actually I was working and I was realizing I wasn't accomplishing everything that I had laid out for myself. And day one happened and I didn't get through everything I meant to. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll just roll it into day two. And day two, my to-dos, I still didn't get through all the to-dos that I had there. And by the end of day two, I was frustrated and I was tired and I was mad at myself because I wasn't getting these things done. And as I took a little time to stop and to think about, well, why am I not getting these things done? Well, I was exhausted. Well, why am I exhausted? Oh, wait a minute. I'm exhausted because the week before I had been off because I'd been caregiving for a relative who's struggling with health issues. So I had given that person all my emotional care and attention, and that had drained me. And so now here I was back in the work environment, but I was still drained. And so I didn't have the capacity to do what I normally could do, right? Recognizing that, I could then look at my work and reset my expectations for that work, which reduced my stress and anxiety. Does that make sense? Then, as my resilience built back up again, I could build in pieces that I was missing and pull them together again. So the 60% rule is really important, even though it looks like it's um, impossible, it's not impossible. And once you set it up so that you have that, it's really important to protect it because everything's going to come at you and say, oh, no, you just need to add this in and you just need to add this in. So, some things that we can say, how do we protect it? Well, if you're asked to squeeze in more, I'm at capacity this week. Let's look at next week. If you start to feel guilty, let's go back to the releasing expectations. Plan for reality, not perfection. And the last piece that we encourage you to do, protect the 60% and use these skills, is the mind body reset. And I'm going to hand us over to Paul to bring us back to our bodies and ourselves.
Thanks, Gail. Really, really awesome stuff and some great tools to help facilitate our best selves throughout not just this holiday season, but beyond. So the last tool that we're going to talk about today is mind body or body and mind stress reset. So outlined here on the slide are just some examples and is not a comprehensive list. And I'm going to try not to go through all of these. And you may notice anybody that has attended previous workshops, some of these things are previously noted, right? And the idea here with the body and mind stress reset is incorporating these mini tools into your micro breaks. So in between phone calls, in between work engagements, family events, whatever it is, if you can start incorporating mini breaks or mini micro break routines into your flow, you'll notice that you'll have more stamina to get through potential stressful situations. Something that works for me is I like this to be a comprehensive, fluid list. And what I mean by that is one, I love routine. I thrive on routine. And doing the same thing over and over again can get a little boring. And I totally understand that that is the definition of routine. So what I do is I will add and subtract things as they feel right and as they feel applicable. And what I mean, kind of an example, maybe maybe box breathing which is the little image that we have going on here. If you're not familiar with it, it's pretty self-explanatory there. It's a breathing technique. So I would utilize that in between phone calls or meetings. After a few weeks of that, though, it kind of gets dull. So then I switch it up and maybe I add in a favorite calming activity. Maybe I add in going for a walk as a micro break routine, if it's applicable. If this is new to anyone, that's great. You're in the right place. So I challenge you and invite you to grab a couple of these. Grab a couple of these from this list and start utilizing and implementing it into your day-to-day. All right, so we're going to bring it all together, right? We're going to bring it all together, talk about some of the tools that we've spoke about today, and we're going to put it into an engagement activity, an engaging activity. So I would love for everyone to follow along, grab a pen and paper, computer, phone, whatever is at your fingertips and whatever is the most comfortable. We'll cover it at the end. So the first one I want you guys to think about and focus on, or what are your top two triggers? Right? Is it family coming into town? Is it trying to balance the family stuff with the work stuff? Is it Q4 deadlines? Maybe it's the holidays itself, right? Just the holidays in general. Not everyone has a favorable experience during the holidays, and that's okay. So, what are the top two triggers that you have? Next one. What are 1 to 2 released expectations? So if you have some expectations, what's 1 or 2 that you can release, you can allow yourself to separate from? What is your even if plan? So again, let's change that. Let's shift it from what if, which is living in the future and based in fear and anxiety. What is your even if plan to provide preparedness? And then lastly, what's a mind body stress release that you can use? Maybe it's something from that list. Maybe it's something that you already do. So, what are your top two triggers? What are your released expectations? What's an even if plan? And what's a body mind stress release that you can incorporate?
One thing that I'm trying to remind myself is an even if plan, which is even if things don't go perfectly, focus on what did go well. So really push myself to notice the good things that have happened or that are that I see. Because even if things go wrong, and they will, it's better to look for what did go right than to hyper focus on, oh my God, that went wrong and it was terrible and at whatever it might be. So that certainly is one that I really am trying to, even if it doesn't pan out, or even if there's an issue that crops up, what can I note that was a positive?
Yeah, that's good. I'll share an experience of mine too, just to also provide another example to hopefully bring this home. Um, One thing for me, especially around the holiday, I have kids, I have teenagers, and they are really good at telling you last minute of an event. Oh, hey, by the way, I've got a concert tonight, right? And so that can be triggering for me too, and my reaction is usually filled with stress. And so, what I will do is I will think about that, try to prepare for that, and I will release and lower my expectation, try to meet them where they're at. And I block out time each day for even if something comes across unexpected, then I have the space to appropriately incorporate it into my day. And the mind body stress release for me, um, I really like doing mini yoga, just mini stretching. Yoga's a hot word. I'll just do some mini stretching and deep breathing as I'm doing these stretching, and I can almost do that anywhere, and it's super effective. That's something that works for me in relation to this holiday stress action plan. Hopefully today through this workshop, everyone can take away, expect the unexpected, control your preparation, expectations, and responses. Remember, those are the things that you can control. The things that you can't control, let it go. Hopefully, you now have some tools that will help you stay clear, calm, and grounded. And I just want to also illuminate that when you release outcomes, protect your energy, and plan for real life stress, not perfection, you create a holiday season where you can truly thrive. Our next meeting will be 12/19. That'll be the final one for the end of the year and into Q4. We'll wrap everything up. We'll present it. We'll wrap it, put a bow on it, put it under the tree. Yes, pun intended.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. Wishing you a thriving holiday season. Take care. Bye, all.